I have to say that I am super stoked for this lesson. This is the video I've been wanting to share with you for weeks. In today's lesson, I'm going to share a secret with you that I guarantee that no one has told you. And I guarantee that no one will ever tell you. We're going to talk about how to rid yourself of objections for good. Now look, when I tell people about the Negotiator's Playbook, the first thing they always ask me is, what do I do? Well, it's not that simple. On one hand, I could tell them that I do sales training, but it's not really true. It is to a point, but it's not what I'm about. Really what I do is help people become people of higher value, not only in their sales job, but more so in their personal life as well. They're actually pretty inseparable if you think about it. It just so happens that I teach this in the prism of sales. The reason I bring this up is that literally everyone that I've seen teach sales techniques eventually has to face the question that every salesperson is going to bring up. How do you deal with objections that people give you? So here we have these countless sales trainers that all end up spouting the same thing, teaching you that the best and really only way to deal with objections is to try to overcome them. At first blush, I have to admit, it made sense to me. If your prospect is telling you a reason why they're not agreeing to buy your product, the only way to get to a yes is to try to show them why they're telling you and what they're telling you is wrong. This is a huge problem though. Why? Well, because it plays into two big parts of our internal wiring that makes it almost impossible for us to succeed in sales. Well, what are they? Well, the first one? Well, every one of us is oppositional by nature. Subconsciously, we're all looking for a battle we can win. Sometimes it's in school, sometimes it's with our friends or a significant other, sometimes it's in sports, sometimes it's just when we're driving. We're all ready to defend ourselves or our point of view at the drop of a hat. If I told you that I'm better than you at something, the first thing you're going to say is, well, and think is, no you're not, and you're probably right. If you play into this trap, making the sale is going to be really, really hard. I bet as I'm telling you this, you're realizing how often it happens to you. I mean, I know I did when my mentor Diesel first taught me this. In fact, I felt kind of sheepish that I never even realized it myself before. I mean, doesn't this make a lot of sense to you? Well, the second part of our internal wiring that keeps us from making the sale might well even be more powerful. And I have to tell you, this one I take really personally. It really annoys the crap out of me, and it's a big reason why I create the lessons I do and do the coaching I do. Well, what is this? Well, we all have a part of our brain that handles a lot of the daily and usually mundane tasks that we run into every day. It's called the pulvinar cortex. You see, this subconscious part of our brain handles all the little things we do every day without ever having to think about it. When it identifies routine stimuli that it easily recognizes, it shifts the task to your subconscious mind. In a sense, your brain puts your actions and your reactions on autopilot, so much so that you're not even aware of what you're doing most of the time. Well, this is pretty helpful when it comes to driving, hand-eye coordination, social media, and pretty much everything else we do every day. It can be a death blow if you're a salesperson. Why? Well, because this once this pulvinar cortex of theirs identifies you as a salesperson, and even more so as an insurance salesperson, you, my friend, are headed to autopilotville. And your subconscious mind is a fifth-degree ninja at dealing with and dispatching salespeople. So much so that you really have no shot at getting the sale most of the time. The battle is over before it even starts. And even if you do manage to succeed at beating this ninja, the part of us that wants to win the fight comes out of the bullpen to make sure that they win the fight. So if it's so seemingly impossible to make the sale because of these two factors, how are you supposed to make the sale, Matt? Well, the answer actually is pretty easy, but it's 100% counterintuitive. The best way to win the fight is to not get into the battle in the first place. Sun Tzu, and I think that's how you pronounce his name, said it best in The Art of War when he said, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." I love this quote, but to me the best part of it and the most powerful part that he teaches is the best way to get the sale is not to put ourselves in a confrontational situation to begin with. This is frankly where mainstream sales training really gets it wrong. They ask us to repeatedly invite ourselves into a blatantly confrontational situation where we have to out-debate our prospect in order to make the sale and overcome the ninja. And even if you do end up doing this successfully, you end up with another problem: buyer's remorse. There's not many things more deflating than finally making the sale only to get the cancellation call the next day. You see, it's only a matter of time before your buyer will realize that you won, and that means that they lost. And that is the fast track to getting cancellations. Look, you and I both know that when we buy something, and when we're thrilled with that decision to buy it, that there's never a battle. We know that not only is what we're buying awesome, but we never even have a second thought that the salesperson might get more out of the sale than we do. So in the end, the best way to get the sale isn't to overcome objections, but to avoid them in the first place. But how do you do this? Well, to me, this is the fun part. I'm actually going to show you, but I'm not going to give you some boilerplate advice that just happened to work for me. I mean, that's stupid. I'm going to give you the fundamental concept behind them so that you can customize it to your situation and preferences. And this works all the time. So take some notes. Feel free to pause and rewind this video, but make sure you write it down and really understand it. So you ready? Awesome. The first thing I want you to consider is, why are people more likely to buy as a referral versus a typical prospect? You ever thought of it? You see, the reason is pretty simple. They rely on the opinion of someone they trust. And as a result, they completely shut off their, what I call their skeptical radar. How cool would it be if every single prospect you talk to did the same thing and shut off their skeptical radar when they talk to you? Well, you can. And to get to this island paradise where sales are plentiful, you have to be prepared to do the opposite of what most salespeople do. We were all trained as part of the sales process to qualify our prospects. And it makes sense, after all, seemingly. We don't want to waste time talking to someone who can't buy our product. But when we do this, we end up turning on the ninja autopilot we talked about earlier. So what do? Well, you disqualify them. No matter what, they are going to perceive you as a salesperson. You can't avoid that. And they're going to expect you to qualify them. But when you actually disqualify them, well, that means it's subtly communicating to them that you have no interest in letting them buy from you at the time. Two things are going to happen. Number one, their radar is going to be shut off, which is awesome, because there's going to be no threat of a sale to defend against. And two, their pride is going to take over. This is big. You see, when I used to tell people that I wasn't sure that they'd be qualified to buy from me, that second type of internal wiring we talked about earlier got triggered. Now the dynamic flipped. Now they're trying to convince me why they should be qualified. So instead of me pushing for the sale, they're wanting me to validate their ego, a huge, huge concept, and to change my mind and tell them that they're going to be up to snuff enough to be able to buy from me. And it's only a matter of time until I might let them win, and they will buy in order to validate this proof of their ego's worth. This is huge. One of you will be pushing to convince the other that he's right, and the other be the gatekeeper, decide who gets the pass. The question is, which one do you want to be? But I know what you must be asking. Look, Matt, I sell insurance. Pretty much anybody can buy from me. Well, from one perspective, that may be true. But in the end, it's up to you to choose whether or not you will let them sign up. You don't have to, though. Let me repeat that. You don't have to let them buy. What do I mean? Well, I know a few agents that will not take on any more new clients without getting rid of their least profitable or most high maintenance client. In other words, the barrier to entry is that they must make their portfolio better than it was before, either in profitability or sheer convenience. Now, if you're new and you need the clients, look, I get that. It's tough to say no to a sale. I get it. But your prospects can smell neediness a mile away. They're like bloodhounds, and it's a huge, huge turnoff. I used to work as a telemarketer, and I used to initially turn people down all the time. I would never just let them buy when they wanted to greenlight the application. I was openly skeptical that they wouldn't meet my qualifications as a client of mine, but I opened the door for them to convince me otherwise, and they usually did. And through all this, I actually was one of the top performers in the whole company, with over 1,000 other colleagues. Imagine talking to a telemarketer who shot you down. Think about that. who wasn't even sure if you were up to their snuff. Trust me, they subconsciously did the math and they were always eager to make sure that didn't happen. So if it can be done in telemarketing, doing it as a licensed insurance agent with well-known and reputable companies behind you is a cakewalk in comparison. I see this every day. Disqualifying your prospect is arguably the most powerful secret sauce that the most successful salespeople, companies, and brands use. These are people who are household names that we would all recognize. The accelerant behind this simple concept that you've heard plenty of times before. People want what they cannot have. So the best way to make them hungry is to buy from you, and to make it a little tough for them to buy, and to tie it to validating their ego. I know that if you look at all the major purchases you've ever made, it was never something that was easy to get. And at the same time, it was something that always made you feel better about yourself. Maybe it was a house or an apartment. Maybe it was the car you're driving. Maybe it was even the guy or girl you're dating. The more buying the product does for your ego, the farther you'll go to buy it. The more you'll spend, and the more you'll go out of your way and even inconvenience yourself to do it. But there's one last problem you need to address if you're going to make this work. Most of us don't have enough confidence in ourselves to do this. This is where I'd like to help you today. If you're like most of the people I talk to and most of the people I coach, this is the sticking point that keeps you from getting the results you want. And it's keeping you from working way too many hours just to make ends meet. This is where I'd like to help you today. I want to offer you the chance to get past this sticking point, starting now. In fact, I'm offering you a free 30-minute coaching session where I'm going to help you identify your sticking point and your bottleneck, and to help you start getting the results you've been slaving away for. All you have to do is click on the link below and schedule a time to meet with me. It's as simple as that. And the coolest part, it's 100% free. If I were you, I would take advantage of this because I've never offered this before, and I have really no plans of doing it again. I normally charge about $100 for the same coaching session, but as a thank you for being part of this movement and for taking the time out of your busy day to join me on this lesson, you're getting it 100% free, but for a very limited time. So what are you waiting for? Go ahead, click on the link below, and get started. I can't wait to meet you.